Hello, neighbors. I'm Heather Kolich, the University of Georgia Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent in Forsyth County, Georgia. Thank you for joining me to learn about growing cool season vegetables from seeds. Our climate in Georgia makes it possible for us to grow food nearly all year long. But to make this plan work, we need to grow the right foods in the right season. Today, we'll talk about what makes a vegetable a cool season plant, when we can plant cool season vegetables, which cool season veggies we can direct seed into our planting beds, where we can grow cool season vegetables, how to plant vegetable seeds, and go over some general care and harvesting of cool season vegetables. Cool season vegetables need cooler soil temperatures for the seeds to germinate, and the plants grow in the cooler months, as the name indicates. Many leafy greens and some root vegetables are healthy cool season crops that grow best when planted as seeds directly into our garden in the soil. Other types of cool season vegetables, such as broccoli and cabbage, should be transferred into the garden as plants or transplants. But leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, kale, and collards grow well from seeds. Root vegetables should always be direct seeded into the garden, since transplanting a growing plant from a garden container can cause the roots to be twisted or grow deformed. And those are the main parts of the plant that we're going to harvest and eat. So we want those to be strong and straight. We can plant cool season crops in two seasons, early spring and fall. Our early spring planting window goes from mid-January to early April, and we can plant fall cool season plants from August the 1st through mid-September. Our planting window is going to depend on where we are in the state, the type of vegetable that we're going to grow, the number of days it takes for a plant to grow from seed to maturity where we can harvest it, and the frost or freeze tolerance of the different plants. For fall planting, we always need to be aware of what our first frost date is in our area. In Forsyth County, it's typically around October the 30th, or pretty close to Halloween. Some vegetables can overwinter and be harvested in the early spring. A couple of examples are carrots and green onions. The UGA Extension Vegetable Planting Chart shows planting windows for vegetables commonly grown in Georgia. I've highlighted the cool season veggies that grow well from seeds. This chart was created for Middle Georgia, so these planting dates coincide with their climate. In North Georgia, we tend to get warmer later in the spring and get cooler earlier in late summer or fall. So if we're planting in North Georgia, we need to plant our spring vegetables 2 weeks later than what it says on the chart, and plant our fall vegetables 2 weeks earlier. For the most part, any cool season vegetable that we can grow in the early spring, we can also grow in the fall. But of course, there are some exceptions, and peas are those for us. We have only early spring planting dates for peas because there's generally not enough time between soil cooling enough for us to plant those seeds in the fall, and the time between the first frost that will kill the seeds. We just can't bring them to maturity in that amount of time. Here are some of the best cool season veggies to grow from seeds. On the leafy greens side, we have arugula, collards, kale, lettuce, mustard, and spinach. Our root vegetables like beets, carrots, radishes, and turnips offer double value because the tops are also edible. Cook the beet greens and turnip greens before eating. You can use the carrot tops or the carrot greens as a substitute for parsley, and radish greens are really good sauteed and put into stir fries or egg dishes. We can grow cool season vegetables in the ground straight into the garden bed. If we're growing them in rows, we need to be sure we leave space to walk between the rows. We can grow them in raised beds where we can plant them more closely together because we're not going to walk between them. Close planting or intensive planting helps to conserve soil moisture in the bed, and also it helps to shade out weeds. And many of our cool season vegetables are well suited for container gardening. As the spring weather warms up, we can sneak a couple of extra cool season weeks out of the summer by planting our cool season leafy vegetables under taller plants like okra or tomatoes. You wouldn't want to plant root vegetables there because when you harvest them, you're going to disturb the roots of your tomatoes. Before planting our seeds, we need to prepare our planting site. It should be free from weeds, and the soil should be loose, light, and moist. When seeds germinate, they need to be able to grow in two directions. The roots need to be able to push downward through the soil, and the shoot system needs to be able to push upward through the soil to reach the sunlight. Loose, lightweight soil is going to help that process, but heavy clay soil can halt that growth altogether. If your soil is heavy clay, you can amend it by tilling in some composted organic matter. That's going to improve your soil structure and drainage. In general, we're going to plant seeds 1.5 times as deep as the size of the seed. The exception for this is going to be lettuce, because lettuce seeds actually need sunlight to allow them to germinate. So we're just going to sprinkle those on top of the soil and then gently press them in. Seeds need to be moist to germinate, so we need to keep that soil moist until we see the seedlings. If the seeds dry out once that germination process starts, there's not a second chance on that. They're just going to die. But after the seedlings pop up through the soil, it's time to reduce the frequency of watering and allow the top of the soil, that soil surface, to dry out before you add another watering. If you hold the moisture against those young stems, they're going to rot. Your seed packet has a lot of information on it that is helpful. It will show you your planting window down here, depending on where you are. So we're right around here. We're going to be planting these carrots January to March and August through October. It will show you your planting depth. In this case, we're going to put these tiny seeds 1/2 inch below the soil. Your spacing, it's telling you to thin them and leave 3 inches between the seedlings. Your sunlight needs, most all of our vegetables are going to need full sun, 6 or more hours. And your days to maturity, which is how long you have to wait between planting that seed and harvesting your food. Vegetables reach maturity at different rates. So over here we have lettuce, a gourmet blend. We're going to be waiting 45 to 50 days from planting before we harvest that, unless we harvest as microgreens. Over here we have some spinach, and the baby leaves would be ready to harvest in about 22 days, or we can wait and get them larger for soups and such around 55 days. You can use succession planting to extend your harvest, especially when you're planting things like radishes and spinach that mature early or quickly. With succession planting, you're going to plant a row, or if you're doing container gardening, plant a few seeds 1 week, and then the next week plant some more, and then plant some more the week after that. That way you'll have several weeks of fresh food coming in, and you won't have too much food all at one time. Some general care for growing vegetable plants. Thin your seedlings to the recommended spacing once they get established so that they have plenty of space to grow to their full mature size. Pull weeds immediately as soon as you see them. They're going to compete with your vegetables and they're probably going to win. Scout your plants daily for signs of pests and get on those pest problems immediately. Once your plants are established and growing, you'll just need to supplement rainfall to make sure that your new plants get 1 inch of water each week. Soaker hoses are going to be the best and most efficient way to do this. Soaker hoses apply water to the soil where it's needed. It does not need to be on the leaves. That actually causes fungal disease problems. And soaker hoses are going to have less water loss to wind and evaporation. When you harvest your leafy greens, you can just take the leaves from the outside, take them when they're still young and tender before they get large and tough. The inner leaves will continue to grow and be ready for you in another week or two. You're going to harvest your root vegetables at maturity, and you'll see the tops of them starting to push up through the soil as they get larger. So enjoy your homegrown food. If you need more information, please visit our website at UGA Extension Forsyth County or visit extension.uga.edu. Thank you for watching this webinar, and happy growing.